Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lily Suryani and you can call me Liz. Today I would like to share how to give a good presentation. What comes up in your mind when you hear about presentation? Are you feeling nervous? Or are you feeling shy? Sometimes we feel shy or nervous when we do presentation. Those feelings are integrated with our preparation. Some people say life is about preparation. Preparation is the most important thing before doing the presentation. People say good presentation are like a concise and compelling story, captivating the audience with a blend of information and inspiration. So, on this occasion, I will talk about how to give a good presentation. There are 3 steps for doing a good presentation. The first is the opening of the presentation. The second is the main of the presentation, and then the last one is the closing of the presentation. Let's discuss one by one. In the opening of the presentation, there are 6 steps that you can do for opening of the presentation. The first is welcoming to the audience. The second is introducing yourself. The next is saying what your topic is. The next is explaining what your topic is relevant to your audience. And then the 5th one is structuring your presentation. And then the last is saying the organization of your presentation. Now, let's break it down step by step. The first is welcoming to the audience. Sometimes we forgot this part, but actually it's very essential that we can do as the presenter to welcome to the audience. We are also confused about some expression that we can use for welcoming to the audience. So here are some expressions that you can use for welcoming your audience. The first you can say is about good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Or you can say is about first of all, let me thank you all for coming here today. The next one is you can say is about I'm delighted that so many of you could make it today. Or you can say welcome to mention the event and it's an honor to have the opportunity to address such a distinguished audience. The second is introducing yourself. Introducing yourself is very fundamental because it looks like your identity and then you try to connect your identity with your audience. So creating a personal connection and providing context of your role in the presentation is very important for you to connect with your audience. There are some ways to mention or to introduce yourself to the audience. Here are the examples. The first one you can say is about, let me introduce myself. I am Dave Elwood from blah blah blah. So you can say it's about your full name. Or you can use another expression to introduce yourself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is. Or you can say, I know I've met some of you, but just for the benefit of those I haven't, my name is. Or the last one, you can say is about, as you probably know, I am the new blah blah blah. So it means about the position of you in introduction. The third is saying what your topic is. Making your topic clear from the beginning helps people understand about what you are going to talk about. For interaction to happen, this clarity sets the stage and then they get the people ready for the comes next. There are some ways that you can do for saying your topic. The first one you can say is about today I would like to talk to you about. Next, you can say is about, as you can see on the screen, our topic today is, or you can say I'm going to inform you about, or the next one you can say what I would like to present to you today is, or you can say the focus of my presentation is. Next is explaining why your topic is relevant to your audience. People will be interested in what you have to say if you can show them how it applies to their lives. People are more likely to interact with the materials that they think is useful or relevant to them. And here are some expressions that you can use for saying this. The first one you can say is about, my talk is particularly relevant to those of you who, or today's topic is a particular interest to those of you who, or you can say the topic is very important for you because. Next, by the end of this talk, you will be familiar with, or you can say we are here today to learn about. The fifth is structuring your presentation. It's important to mention how many parts of your presentation. It's better to mention the exact number of your presentation. For example, you can say 3 parts of the presentation, or you can say there are 2 parts of the presentation. It's better than you mention about some of the presentation, so it will be better for you to mention the exact number of the presentation. Here are some phrases that you can say to talk about the structuring of your presentation. The first one, you can say, I've divided my presentation into 3 parts, X, Y, and Z. Or you can say, in my presentation, I'll focus on 3 major issues. Or you can say, first of all, I'll be looking at blah blah blah, second blah blah blah, and then the third blah blah blah. Or you can say, I'll begin or start off by explaining. The last is organization. So you can mention about the length of the time that you need for doing the presentation. It will be very useful for the audience to know how many minutes that you are going to talk. And here are some expressions that you can do for mentioning about the time. My presentation will take about 20 minutes. It should take about 30 minutes to cover these issues. Or you can say, I'll so only take 15 minutes of your times. Or you can say, this should only last 20 minutes. So, there are 6 steps that you can do for the opening of your presentation. Okay, so after the opening of the presentation, next is the main of the presentation. The main of the presentation is very important. Focusing on the main of the point of your presentation is important for getting your message across, making sure that people or audience understand and then having the impact that you want. It makes your presentation clear, interesting, and more successful. In the main of the presentation, there are 3 steps that you can do. The first one is the signal, the beginning of each part. The next one is moving to the next point, and then the last one is the signal to the end of the part. We will take each point separately for a detailed discussion. The first is signposting. So signposting phrases are very useful for the audience, so it looks like a guide for your presentation. So the first one is saying what is coming. There are some expressions that you can use for saying what is coming. The first one, you can say, in this part of my presentation, I would like to talk about blah blah blah, or you can say, so let me first give you a brief overview. The second is moving to the next point. So there are some expressions that you can use for mentioning about the next point. The first, you can say, this brings us to my next point, or you can say, let's now move on or turn to, or you can say, after examining this point, let's turn to blah blah blah, or you can say it's about, let's now take a look at. The third is indicating at the end of the section. There are some expressions that you can use for saying the end of the section. The first, you can say, this brings me to the end of my first point. You can say, so that's the background on, or you can say, that's all I wanted to say about blah blah blah. The third is the closing of the presentation. By saying the end of the presentation, you make it clear to the audience that you are done. In their minds, this helps them to get ready for the session to stop. And there are 3 things that you can use for ending of the presentation. Now, let's break it down one by one. The first one is the signal at the end of your presentation. And there are some expressions that you can use for saying this. The first one, you can say, I'm now approaching or nearing the end of my presentation. Or you can say, well, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Or you can say, it covers just about everything. I want to say about blah blah blah. Or you can say, okay, I think that's everything I wanted to say about. And you can say, as a final point, I would like to. The next is summarizing your key points. So it will be important for the audience to get your review or your highlight from your presentation. And there are some ways that you can do for doing or for saying summary for your audience. The first one, you can say, I'll just run through the 3 different options. Before I stop, let me go over the key issues again. Or you can say, just to summarize to the main point of your talk. Just to summarize the main points of my talk. Or you can say, I would like to run to my points again. Or you can say, to conclude or in conclusion, I would like to. Or you can say, to sum up. The last is closing of your presentation. You can use quote for emphasizing about your presentation. So, this is the example that I take a quote from Lily Walters about presentation. The success of your presentation will be judged not by the knowledge that you send, but by what the listeners receive. Well, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Don't forget to practice before doing presentation. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.